Traditionally loyal Republicans elect Democrats to key offices, including governor. October. The campaign heats up with both Roosevelt and Hoover making lengthy train trips around the country to meet voters and deliver speeches. The United States Supreme Court hears appeals in the convictions and death sentences of 8 young black men and teens convicted of raping 2 women on a train near Scottsboro, Alabama. November. Roosevelt wins in a historic landslide. Banking conditions, which had seemed to stabilize during the summer, begin to rapidly deteriorate. The Supreme Court orders new trials for the Scottsboro boys. December. Just before Christmas, Hoover embarks on a 10-day fishing trip to Florida. January to February 1933. Banks in Detroit face a significant run by depositors. Hoover sends emissaries to ask Henry Ford to play a role in the bank's survival. He refuses. Hoover also seeks Roosevelt's help in supporting Hoover's efforts. He also refuses. Congress votes to repeal Prohibition, sending the new proposed 21st Amendment to the states for ratification. March 1933. Roosevelt is sworn in as the 32nd President of the United States. Almost immediately, he declares a national bank holiday, closing down the system for a week until the government can stabilize it. Hoover takes a train to New York City for a few days, then joins his wife at their home on the Stanford University campus near Palo Alto, California. Preface. What came before? John W. Hoonfeld, a small man with a huge mustache, was a habitual early riser. He had worked for years as a blacksmith in his native Portsmouth, New Hampshire, then in the Boston area, before migrating south to Washington, D.C. in 1908, after stomach cancer killed his wife Christina. By the time the Great Depression descended, Hoonfeld was living alone in a cluttered room. Clocks were his thing, collecting broken ones and making them tick again, a few blocks from the U.S. Capitol. Hoonfeld led a low-key and rather anonymous life, except for one annual step into the spotlight, aided by his predisposition to get out of bed by 5:30 a.m. Beginning in 1926, Hoonfeld arrived outside the White House main gate early, every New Year's Day morning, to be first in line for a tradition launched by President John Adams and his wife Abigail in 1801, inviting the public in to shake the president's hand. On the first day of 1932, Hoonfeld, now a 66-year-old part-time painter, stepped out of his boarding house into a driving rain. Protected by an umbrella and wearing a new pair of shoes, he began the 20-block walk to the White House, arriving shortly after 7 a.m., only to find he had been aced out by 4 other people, 2 of whom had come directly from a New Year's Eve party at 1 a.m. Disappointed, Hoonfeld took his spot behind the others to wait more than 5 hours before the public reception line would be admitted. Luck arrived first. Glancing out a White House window, President Herbert Hoover saw the short line of sopping wet people and sent word down to invite them inside for a breakfast of awful good coffee, eggs, awful sweet bacon and muffins, as one of the impromptu guests told a reporter. Hoonfeld, though, missed the meal. Seeing an opportunity, he declined the invitation, and when the other 4 people went inside, he moved to the front of the line and held his ground until the White House doors opened to all, keeping alive his personal tradition of being the first to shake the president's hand. Over the years, Hoonfeld spoke annually with reporters curious about his obsession, and he often carried slips of paper with printed details of his life to save the interviewers some time. Yet he didn't display any particular interest in politics or in specific politicians.